I thought the senator from Arizona made a very common sense proposal. We're in a position here in the Congress that we often find ourselves. We have different opinions, dramatically different opinions in some cases. And what she said was, while we're working those things out, let's, for 7 days, extend the $600 unemployment benefit so people aren't hurt. That's a common sense proposal. And I regret that that wasn't adopted. I like what the senator from Ohio said. Instead of starting, when you have a disagreement over several items, my experience is you don't start with the things that you disagree on the most, you start with the things that you agree on the most. And there are a number of things in the House-passed bill and in the Senate Republican bill that was introduced on Monday, which the president supports. Let me repeat that. The House of Representatives has passed a bill. They have a Democratic majority. The Senate has a Republican majority, and we have a Republican president. So we have a Republican president and a Republican bill, and we have a House-passed bill, and it's time to see if we can put the two together. That's why we have two bodies. But that requires senators and members of the House who are willing to sit down and come to some compromise or some resolution of the issues. There are some things about which we have big differences. One is the dollar figure. I mean, as the senator from Ohio said, we've already spent $3.5 trillion. That's a number so big most of us couldn't even speak it before we got to this era of the sneaky, dangerous COVID virus. But let's look at the other side. On what might we agree? Or many of us agree. We don't have 100% of either side going to agree on most anything. We might start with schools. Schools are starting up in the southern part of the United States, where the presiding officer is from Florida. I'm from Tennessee. Schools are getting ready to go back. So are colleges. That means 70 million students who would like to go back to school or college. 100,000 public schools, 35,000 private schools, 6,000 colleges. So what help do they need? They need help reopening safely so that they can go back with students physically present, as consistent with safety as is possible. Now, I talked with the governor of Tennessee, Bill Lee, yesterday. He said 93 of the 95 counties in Tennessee had schools that were going to reopen in person. Now, maybe not every student, maybe not every class, but in 93 of the 95 counties, the governor said, they know the children need to be in school, and their parents need for them to be in school. I mean, 2/3 of married parents work outside the home. And this is a bill for the children, though. I mean, every teacher, every pediatrician, almost every parent knows that, especially with young children, if they're left out of school for such a lengthy period of time, it damages them. It hurts them. There is a health risk in going back, yes. Not very much to young children, but there's a bigger emotional, intellectual, and physical risk if they stay out of school. And what do we propose to do? We propose to help pay for the schools to open safely and to help pay for the colleges to open safely, which most are doing. The Chronicle of Higher Education said yesterday that 50% of our colleges plan to open this fall with students physically present. And 35% more have a mix with students physically present and online instruction. That means only 13% will be all virtual. At least that's their plan. So if we could agree on that, why shouldn't we help them? Well, we can agree on it because the House of Representatives bill and the Senate Republican bill has almost exactly the same amount of money in it. About $1,250 for K through 12 schools. That's a lot of money per student. $1,250 per student, about $1,500 per student for colleges to help them open safely. We can agree on that. We can agree on child care, I think. We ought to be talking about back to school, back to college, back to child care, back to work. It's hard to go back to work if you don't have child care. There are provisions in the House bill and in the Republican bill that aren't so different. Testing. We all believe, I think, that we need a maximum advance on testing, especially point-of-care testing, quick, reliable tests. There's money in the Republican bill and in the Democratic bill to advance that effort. And then the small business loans called PPP. That probably was the most successful part of the early CARES bill, but a bipartisan group of senators has worked on getting rid of some of the problems with it and come up with a proposal to extend that. Now, those are several major points on which we agree, and I think the senator from Arizona's suggestion that we pass the unemployment benefit for another week while we work together to get agreement was a common sense one. Let me speak for